Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Hello, and welcome back to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce our guest, Dr. Mamta Kumar, who actually does land investing. Land investing is something that I have never personally researched, looked into, or really know very much about. So I'm really excited for her to share her knowledge about land investing and what got her there. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself further?
Hi, Elisa. Thank you so much for having me. For everybody, I'm Mamta Kumar. I'm a board-certified internist, integrated medicine physician who was working as a hospitalist until the pandemic, which was in March 2020. But I have been a full-time land investor who has been virtually investing in the land since then, pretty much full-time. So that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And yeah.
So you started with the pandemic, but what really got you to start because of the pandemic? Was it what happened in your practice? Was it other issues?
So I'm an immigrant to this country. I was born and raised in India, and I did the medical school here. And my husband was here in the United States for his work, and I joined him. And initially, I had no plans to stay here. I was like, okay, I'll go back to India. I'll do my post-graduation there. But with time, I did my post-graduation here, and then realized back in 2012. I had graduated from residency. I don't have any other family support other than my husband, and I had a 1-year-old daughter at that time, which, there were some complications in pregnancy, but she was born all right. But the second child was born at 24 weeks in 2014, which was right within 2 years of my residency. So since then, I was kind of juggling and struggling, trying to find the balance between work schedule and her therapies and stuff like that. And meanwhile, I was diagnosed with autoimmune illness too. So for a long time, I was just trying to kind of find that perfect balance between the work situation, the work schedule, the kind of work I wanted to do. So as an internist, I could be a primary care, and I had done that. I did urgent care. I did full-time hospitalist and part-time nocturnist job, all kind of job stuff, right? And then when pandemic hit back in 2020, I do have autoimmune health condition, and I was immunocompromised. This was the first time I was like, you know what? And I do have interstitial lung disease, which affects my lungs. Now, we knew that COVID, the pandemic, lungs were the major organ, and this virus was causing pneumonia. With my health condition and health risk, I decided to this time just give in and just not look back and just kind of focus on something which would make me financially free so that I could just really practice medicine on my terms, on whatever time schedule which I wanted, and not find another job. So that's what the whole motivation was at that time, to just kind of quit.
Wow. Yeah. And I think your story resonates with, so many other physicians, because it may be only one of those things. Like we have a child who has special needs, or it may be that we ourselves have a health problem, and you're looking at having had both, which,
Right.
can be a lot. So when did you actually start looking into land investing? What got you actually interested in land investing specifically?
So it was back in 2018. I had moved to a new town where my husband was working so that we could save his time and commute. And I joined a full-time nocturnist job, just hoping that maybe having easy night shifts I'll be able to be more present with my daughter as well, which just backfired. It just took a toll on my own health, and it just got worse. So within 6 months, I put a resignation in, not knowing what I was doing. But I knew this part, that was my, I think, third or fourth job. So I was like, you know what? Jobs are not the way to go. I need to be financially free, and I need to figure out how I can be financially free. Now, I was not actively looking into real estate or anything like that, but I knew somebody, acquaintance, who was doing this virtually and was being successful at it. So I had started to kind of look up the podcasts, some videos and stuff like that. And I did realize that this was something which can be done virtually at any time when you want. And it was very flexible. And that this was the reason which kind of pulled me towards it. And then I just kind of continued, just formed the LLC back in 2018, and then slowly just kind of learned more and more about it. Did a few deals until before the pandemic because I was just trying to supplement the income. But when 2020, when I quit, I was like, what the heck, now I'm not even working until vaccines come. So let me just go full in. And that's when I got full in.
Oh, but 50 deals before you even went fully in, that seems like a lot.
It was around probably 20 to 25, but it was profitable enough that I could see the potential. But I didn't want to do it in big, large volume at that time. But in pandemic, in fact, it was a good time for land investing as well, since everybody was looking for some free space to go to because the travels were banned and stuff like that. So I think that kind of played some factor where I was just ready at the right time to just kind of do more of this.
So your first introduction was basically just knowing someone who was doing it.
Just knowing someone, yeah.
And how much did you learn from that person? Or was it really about just,
Not much, just knowing that, hey, did you know that that guy is doing this and he made this much money in one flip? And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. That's a significant amount, especially if you don't have to go and see the lot and stuff like that. And that person was working full time as well. So I was like, wow, this is something you can definitely do it on the side without going and visiting, and it could work. And then when I dug a little bit deeper, I went to one conference and they were charging very high ticket mentorship program. And I was like, you know what? I don't have this much money and I do not know if I want to invest this much money. So I kind of DIY'd a lot of that, took one little tiny course, which were all recordings, and then kind of just went through that step by step and just put the repetitions in to kind of learn that in real time to kind of see what was working and what was not working.
and in the beginning, how much time did you spend kind of on that education, learning the ropes before you even got to your first actual investment?
So I took the plunge in already. I knew that I need an alternate business. So I formed the LLC and got the course, and side by side, I was just taking the steps. So I didn't do the whole initial research upfront for months and then take the steps. I knew that this works and this is something which I could do flexibly from home, my bed, if I needed to be like it needed to be like that. So I was doing it side by side. I didn't do the whole lot of initial research. I was just like signed up and then started to look at the video, and I would just implement and do it pretty much.
So how long was it when you were like, okay, I want to get started with this, to when you actually bought your first investment?
I think it was around 3 months.
All right.
It was around 3 months of time. Yeah. And it probably took another a month or two to kind of sell it. So it was like, final, because since I was not so confident, I was not putting that many hours, right? I was just kind of taking it easy. Whenever somebody would watch Netflix, I was just watching this and doing this on the side.
And how much capital do you need to get started?
I really think the numbers vary right now, but at that time, back in 2018, there was not much competition. There were not many, it was kind of the cost to get a deal was very low. So at that time, pretty much, I think I might have not spent more than five to $8,000. It was less than $10,000 for sure, because things were very predictable. I usually in this model, I reach out to the landowners, vacant landowners where I want to acquire the lot. In the cost of mailing at that time was definitely less. The numbers or the cost of mailing right now is definitely very variable depending upon which area you choose. So it definitely has gone probably a little bit higher right now compared to what it was at that time. And I did not have any help. I was doing everything by myself. So obviously, I was not paying somebody until I really, really made significant amount of money.
Mm-hmm. So if someone were to start doing this now, what would your ballpark estimate be about how much capital they would need in order to get started?
I really think there are different ways you can, because the whole model of, investing in land is like you would purchase the land at the lower price and then you're going to sell it at the higher price. I really think the way which I do it, where I create the list, obtain the list of the property owners and then scrub it and then send it for the direct mailing. That cost definitely has gone up. And I really think it would be a good idea to kind of just keep it in mind that if you want to save time, I think if you're physicians, you don't have that much time, then probably 10 to 20K would be something which you'll have to kind of keep it in mind, that you will have to continuously invest for 3 months and be persistent on that as well, because these things will take time. Once the direct mail sends out, it takes a little bit of time. But the other way could be like, right now, I really think there's quite a bit of opportunity where the properties are listed in the market for some time, and then you're able to negotiate deals just directly from the market. So I'm definitely kind of working on that right now as well, because I see quite a bit of deals just sitting in the market for somebody who just doesn't want to do the whole business and operations kind of things. You can just kind of purchase something from the market. As long as you know that area and that land is appreciating, you can negotiate a good deal and then hold on to it for like few months and then sell it back or put it back in the market and make profit in that. I really think that could be the best strategy for anybody who doesn't have that much time, doesn't want to run a whole, the gamut of whole business and things like that.
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit and talk about what land investing really is. So in my mind, land investing is basically you buy land and then you sell it for an appreciated value more than you bought it for, and you're basically flipping land, and you may or may not be doing development in order for some appreciation.
Yep.
Maybe you're buying a big plot and you're just subdividing it and then selling the subdivided plots, or maybe you're just even buying a plot and just it's a highly appreciating land area, so you're holding it for a little bit and selling. So
yes,
why don't you illuminate more? Because that's about the extent I know.
So you said all the right things, but I think there was one model which you missed, was the land flipping model at a very fast pace, which is what I do. Because in the land, there's a discrepancy between what the county assesses that vacant lot to be, and then what it could sell in the market in the real world. And for most of the people, whenever you have a house and stuff like that, then you have, you're looking for the rental opportunities and things like that, right? Now, let's just imagine I'm a landowner, like I inherit quite a bit of land and I don't have any intention to build on that. Then that's a liability for me, right? Or for many other people, unless they have the intention to build on that plot, because they're going to be paying taxes on that. They're going to be, if there's HOA and stuff like that, then they're going to be paying HOA. And if your kids don't want it, then, what are they going to do? And depending upon what the lots are, it's kind of hard to sell smaller lots. For the bigger lots, you could have great realtors who would sell like 100 plus acreages and stuff like that. If the acreages are smaller, like 1 acre, 4 acre, 5 acre, 10 acre, depending upon what their price point is. If the price point is less than 100K for that property, I've noticed that the realtors don't do a good job or will not accept the properties and stuff like that. So these sellers or the landowners who are just sitting right there, not knowing what to do with the land. So whenever an investor reaches out to them, they're like, hey, we are investing in the area. We're looking for this lot. Are you looking to get the cash for your land? So there's definitely there's a ratio of how many letters send out or how many reaches are made and how many will respond, and we'll just come to an agreement. But most of the times we come to an agreement to acquire the land, which is pretty close to county assessed value, and we make sure that that the market value of there's that gap, which we're going to be capitalizing when we are selling it. And we would just kind of sell it pretty fast and put it back in the market right away. We try not to do any development at all, because the development, first of all, it takes time. It takes a whole structure. We have done some minor subdivisions where you just kind of, plot them again, but make sure you get the utilities, but no road development and stuff like that, because those are time taking. So that's how we're able to kind of do it at very fast pace. And when you add multiple, not just 1 or 2, 3, 4, then I really think it just kind of compounds very fast.
It sounds like you're finding the sellers of the land by sending out direct mail just to plots that you find from some database or something.
Yes.
So then how are you finding buyers so quickly?
Yeah, so there is a different marketing strategy for that, which would be kind of listing at multiple websites like Zillow. Even sometimes we'll use the realtor, fixed broker list, like MLS listings. We'll just have a fixed rate pay and then we can list it, or even Facebook Marketplace, or some other listing places where you could just pay and then purchase those premium spots and you can go ahead and list those lots. So that's what we have been doing, because those websites are SEO optimized. They come on the top for anybody who's looking for the lot in that certain county. For that acreage, then our listing comes on the top. So we'll just continue to have the buyers reach out to us that way. So selling part is not that hard compared to the acquisition side.
Oh, that's interesting. So people are sitting in land, not even knowing how they can sell it. And theoretically, if they just put a little bit of elbow grease in, they could actually sell it not without too much difficulty.
Yeah, selling is Yeah, selling is not that hard at all. And we try to kind of, the whole criteria to do is like, at least I want to get my, like, double my money. Whatever I purchase for, that's the minimum. I want to kind of double that much. I want to have that for profit. But, depending upon what the lot is like, it can be return on investment could be like 100% to 400%, sometimes even 800%. Just totally depends on that, case scenario.
And do you look at lots across the country? Do you have specific markets that you focus on?
Yes. So yeah, we are based in Texas. We started in Texas, but we do always go in the other states as well. I've sold land or purchased it from New Mexico, Georgia, Tennessee, now North Carolina. So yeah, we keep on exploring different states for sure.
And then do you open an LLC in every state that you're buying land in?
No, wherever the major lands are, our major land deals have always happened in Texas. But if you're doing one or two deals in the other states, it's fine. So unless it's like a big plot, then we try not to. If it's going to be just one LLC for just, just one tiny plot, then we're not going to do it. But if one LLC, like right now, I think in one state, which is other than Texas, I think we have like four. If we end up purchasing all those four, I might consider opening the LLC there.
But this does sound like there's no cash flow, right? It's all just selling for appreciation or, matching like the seller and buyer. Yeah.
So yes, there is a cash flow. There is a cash flow. So what we do is we'll purchase it for cash and we sell it for seller financing, where we would act as a bank. And so, for example, our lot is listed for 50,000. We're able to finance it, and we put the terms out like, hey, you can put the 10,000 as a down payment, and you're going to continue to make the monthly payments to us for this many rest of the years at this much interest rate, just like a bank would do. Just like, the loan which we carry for our house, we do a down payment and then we continue to pay that compound interest to the bank. So that's what adds up to kind of provide you that cash flow, because if you do it for one property, it's not that hard, and you continue to just add up those notes. We just call it like carrying the notes. So we sold the lots, we have a lien on those lots, and they continue to make their monthly payments down the year. Usually the smallest period we do is 5 years, and we try not to go past 10 years either. So most of these notes which I carry is between 5 to 7 years, and they add up, and there's nothing else you have to do once you sold the lot. It's almost like a mailbox money which will just continue to come in your account.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but when you're acting as the bank now, how much credit check are you doing? How much application are you doing for?
Oh, so there's a third party note servicing companies who will do all the paperwork for you. So we just outsource it to them. And then CPA will have to reconcile all those, collections in the end. So that's a CPA's job. So yeah, that's pretty hands off too. We don't do anything in-house. We just it's originated by the title company. And then we hand it off to the note servicing company. And note servicing company is the one who will do everything, all the paperwork and stuff required. And then we don't even like continue to kind of, check with the buyer. Note servicing company is the one which will continue to stay in touch with them, and they will collect the monthly payment and they will disburse to us like on the monthly basis. So it's pretty easy, simple, not like rentals where something needs to be fixed, renovated, stuff like that. The only time we are kind of called in or like we are alerted that like if somebody's not making the payments, but usually we are able to kind of work out pretty okay. Otherwise, in the worst case scenario, you could foreclose a lot because you have the lien on that property.
So, in those cases of non-payment, what happens? Like you reach out, tell us about the situation.
We have had two of those so far. One of them couldn't afford because of her family situation, and she didn't want to kind of continue to pursue the plans of building on that lot. One of them decided to give the lot back to us because it was fairly new, like few months lot, and we noticed that that was appreciating market, and whatever term and condition which we gave to her, we were able to list the property back in the market at a higher price, and it sold, and we made profit on that as well, and in fact higher profit because the value had increased. And the other one, we helped her to list the property back in the market, and she listed it with a realtor. We helped her, and she sold it, and she paid us back with that.
All right. So you haven't had to go through the actual foreclosure process.
So we never had to focus. No, because most of the times we always try to kind of have a good relationship between our sellers and buyers, and we remain in touch with them. So it's not like it comes out of the blue. We all kind of know, and they alert us in case they are not able to make payment, and they tell us whatever situation they're going through. So we are able to kind of just work it out. We never had to go for a foreclosure so far, but I think even if we had to go, probably it's not going to be that hard. We'll have to just figure it out.
So at this point, all the passive cash flow from holding all these notes, is that what's created your financial freedom?
So I have that coming in, and I also have bought the rentals because whenever you make money with these flips in the land, it's taxable. So you don't get any tax benefits from this. So we also bought rentals. So just even we bought like 17 doors and back in 2021. And after that, we have not like this year is a year when we are going to buy more. So yeah, just adding both of them up. Yeah, I really think, just keeps us in such a comfortable spot where like, oh, life is good. We can just work whenever we want to and however hours I want to work. So yeah, definitely adding both of them up.
Oh, that's great. So how much time do you spend a week now doing the land investing?
I really think day to day running the stuff is not that much, probably around like 20 hours for sure, because I think we are doing it at very much at scale. Yeah, we try to kind of close like or purchase like 4 to 5 lots and sell 4 to 5 lots per month. So that's a lot of properties which I have to kind of go through. But a lot more than that, I think 20 hours would be what I would say that on day-to-day operations I kind of spend. And others are kind of looking at the structure of the business on how to improve those kind of stuff.
Well, but that's still quite a bit of time.
Yes, because of all these properties which still needs to be reviewed. Like for example, how many properties we have listed right now? We probably have like 13, but we have like 7 accepted properties which needs to be reviewed to kind of make sure, even though my team can do all the due diligence and everything, I'm just still the last person who has to okay and stamp it like, oh yeah, it looks good, and just kind of pass it on. So I'm just letting it collect for the last 1 week. And one day probably I'll just kind of sit down and review all the properties and see if it meets our criteria or not and stuff like that.
And you mentioned your team. So what's your team consist of? Who's on your team?
Yeah. So right now we have 3 Philippines VA. I'm hiring one more, and we have one in the US. So yeah, we're trying to kind of hire more people, but as I'm trying to kind of hire somebody who could operate and be like a good admin who could review these properties for me. But I've been just having a little bit of difficulty in that. But yeah, right now we have 5 people in my team except me.
Wow, so you really built a big business out of this.
Yes, and that's why I really think even though we are able to do multiple deals, I'm still able to kind of just keep it below like my hours, less than 20 hours, because I do love to review the deals. So I keep it reviewing that. And that's something which I kind of keep for me and myself. But most of the other parts are definitely kind of delegated out, and they know their structure, they know their roles, what they're supposed to do, and they can just continue to kind of work on that. So, yeah.
So obviously, like you're doing this full time, you're not working as a physician anymore. But when you started because you knew that this was something that you could just do on the side.
Yeah.
And at that point, so if you're doing 20 hours a week now, when you started, how many hours a week were you doing until the point that you started to ramp up?
So till pandemic, like in pandemic, March 2020, when I quit, I was in shock period for 6 months. And after November, I was like, I didn't know what to do or not do. So I was kind of pretty slow. But back in October or November 2022, like I really think 6 months, I was pretty much into it, almost like a full-time job, because I wanted to understand not only how the deal works, but the structure, the business, like how to scale and these kind of things. So a lot of more than 50% of my time was going into the education and learning of it. And then 50% of that time was going in the implementation. So at that time, for sure, for that short 6 months period of time, it was like 40 hours because I just wanted to know the ins and out. And I wanted to kind of know how to make it work, because doing 1 or 2 deals is fine. Anybody can do it. But if you want like a solid structure, delegation, having a system, these were all foreign to me. As physicians, all we do is like we go, we see our patients, and then we do put our orders in, and we just communicate with the staff. It's kind of very limited. We don't do admin tasks. We don't do like forecasting, figuring things out. Everything is almost given to us in a platter, right? Like when we go there, hey, what do you need? And this and that. There's always like somebody to kind of just help us. And all we need to kind of do or use is our clinical brain. Which was not the case in this business or any business for that matter, right? Like I had no education. I didn't have anybody in hand to kind of tell me like how this works either. And it was pandemic, everybody was locked in. So a lot of this education just happened kind of virtually.
If there's a physician who's like, well, I just want to be able to have some extra passive income, but there's no way I'm going to spend 20 hours, or I have no interest in like creating a whole business doing this. Is this something that someone realistically could learn and do well on the side? Just
I really think so. I really think so because, like, for example, there are quite a bit of properties which are listed in the market already, have been there in the market for a long time. They have not been buyers and stuff like that because of whatever reason. And lately, what I've been doing is just creating the list of those properties and then putting out the offer into them. And then when you are selling it, you could buy it for cash, obviously at a discounted price for the properties which has been listed in the market for 6 months. I don't think the seller, we can definitely kind of work it out and totally depends on that each case and each property. You can get a discounted rate and you could sell it on the seller financing because when you do sell a property in the seller financing, I really think you just open up your buyer's pool. A lot of people who cannot afford a lot to pay that much lump sum of money upfront, but they are able to kind of make the payments of that down payment and monthly payment. They can afford that. I really think there is quite a bit of room and a gap there where you can just purchase a property from the market alone, just reviewing, just knowing your market, and then purchase it from there and then seller and seller financing, which doesn't require much time.
all right. And then you mentioned the taxes. So of course, if you're selling it in less than a year, you're going to pay full. I mean, you're not going to pay the discounted capital gains tax. It's going to be based on, your tax bracket. So you said that you have rentals to offset that.
And then even seller financing. When you sell a finance, you're going to be taxed on only the payment which you got, right? The money which has not come to you yet, you're not going to be taxed on that. So I always try to kind of balance my portfolio with that as well, because I really like the passive side of it. Like, it comes in the note, it continues to come monthly, and it will continue to come monthly for 5 years down the line. And I don't have to pay taxes on that, right? And sometimes you can go in just like negative. Like, for example, if I purchase a lot for 30,000, sold it for 50,000, but that person made the 10,000 down payment and will continue to make 500 monthly payments for 7 years or whatever years, whatever terms comes out to be. So 30K minus 10K, you're going to be minus 20K, right? Like, because you lost that money. So that's like invested in the future. And then you would carry the notes of 40K, right? Because that note amount, because you're selling it for total 50K. So that you would carry that note of 40K and that will continue to make you monthly payments. I really love that because I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of balanced. I'm not going to be paying taxes on it right away. And then that cash flow will continue.
But you pay taxes on the interest as well, don't you?
Yeah.
It's full. I mean, there's no discount on that tax either.
No, not on that. And that's why I try to kind of balance it both with the rentals as well. Yeah, because this is as good as any W2 income when you're not holding it for more than a year or like, because it's just an active flip. You're just buying and selling it. So such a fast pace.
No, but since you have like an actual business, different VAs and a team, how much can you like write off all the business expenses? I mean, you can write that off against the investment, right? Yeah.
Quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. And in fact, that's what my incentive is, to just hire more. That's what I like to do as well, like, and make the investments, upfront before the year ends. Like, for example, right now, I'm like, you know what, there are certain stuff which I'm doing right now and I would not like to do. Definitely, I want to kind of hire 2 people this year because if I'm making that much money, why pay taxes on that? Just hire somebody and just get my hours back and let them do a little bit of more work. So I always find that, pretty interesting concept as well, because I really think once we start doing business as physicians, like we are hard workers, we want to work hard and harder, but we have to put a check on that. So that's like a very conscious decision, which I have to like remind myself, like, yeah, everybody's working hard, but the whole intention is not to work very hard. So like, let's hire somebody who can do it and just find the right person. Finding the right person, probably I find the hardest, but I think once the person clicks in, it's kind of great to just kind of just have that, team and support.
Wow. Well, it's amazing what you've grown in such a short period of time. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to be inspired by your story. So I know you have a Facebook group and I think you have a course as well. Why don't you tell us about that?
So yeah, I had, there was so much interest in this because I thought physicians, like, why would anybody care and why would anybody be interested? But I had so many questions that I started this Facebook group, which is called Fast Financial Freedom with Land Investing. And I think for physicians as well in the end. So yeah, anybody who's physician, feel free to join that to kind of learn more about that. There's quite a bit of content and lives which I have done over there, which kind of guides you like, what can be done and how the returns can look like. And I do have a course as well, which is like 12 weeks, program with the group coaching calls, focusing on teaching the physicians how to make money with the land investing. Yeah.
And do you launch the course at certain times of the year? How does that work?
So I just launched the course. So we are on our third week right now, and I think we'll do the second round probably in fall. So the website is fastfiremd.com. If you want to kind of, opt in, you can opt in for that. But the next round will be probably in the fall after summer.
All right, listeners. So if you're really interested in learning land investing, go and get on that wait list so you'll get an email when next course opens. Well, thank you so much for coming on and teaching us about land investing. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much for having me, Elisa. Thank you.
Thanks to all our listeners for listening to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. And I'll be back next week with another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.